Yo, what's up, everybody? Super excited to bring to you Edwin Aristor, the man, myth, the legend, the guy who runs LinkedIn and runs everything in life. He's your he's your incredible Mr. Do It All, Mr. Saving Babies in Hades, and Mr. The mentors of mentors. I give you Edwin Aristor.
Davidson, I think I might have to hire you as my hype man. So thank you for that introduction. But no, super humbled to be here today. I know you've done a lot of these interviews over the past, I guess, couple years, really. So super excited to be here. Happy to dive into some conversations and kind of take it to the next level.
Yeah. We'd love to. I think like I always think about like what's someone's like essence, and not to toot my own horn too much, but I think like we both like have a lot of similarities. I think like what definitely resonates like when we hang out and stuff is like you're just like, I feel like you're always like very present, like you're such a good listener. You're someone who like walks around the cafeteria or like anywhere on LinkedIn and everyone's like high-fiving you and doing like a secret handshake and stuff like that. Just like, yeah, you're just the man. Like we'd love to like learn, like, because I know like you're super into self-development and all that. Like what prompted you to want to have the curiosity to want to discover more about your inner self and stuff like that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So funny enough, actually been going to therapy over the past couple months, and when you look at the hierarchy of needs, the top one is self-actualization. So you have food, water, shelter, so on and so forth, love. But self-actualization for me is understanding how can I be a better human being. I've had a wonderful mother that raised me with just so much love and so much trust. And then for me, as I develop into a human being, I want to understand how I can be a better person, not only through my faith, but at work and my personal relationships. So when I think about my essence, a couple of things that come to mind: love, loyalty, and integrity.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. That's good news for your partner. That's for sure. Yeah. So how, I think, did you ever do that exercise? Like, I know you've gone to accomplishment coaching a couple of times. Did you ever get your essence words?
I didn't. I just don't remember off the top of my head, but it was really good exercise just to understand. And the exercise I really liked about it is how I perceive myself and then how other people perceive me without me saying anything. So people were saying like loyalty, good friend, loving, friendship. So that was like a really cool exercise to do around essence.
And was any of it different than how you perceive yourself, or was it pretty much in alignment?
I would say it was pretty much in alignment, and there's some things that I didn't realize that people perceived without me saying something. So that really was like a really cool activity as well.
What were some of those, if you don't mind me asking?
Someone said regal.
Regal.
And like I was like royalty, and I was like,
oh yeah, I can see
I'll
that.
take that.
Yeah.
But protector, that stood out as well. Confident.
Guardian.
And I didn't say anything. I just stood there, and it was like, you come across very confident.
Oh yeah. So, but you don't see yourself as that sometimes?
From time to time, in different areas, I can feel myself super confident. Other times where I'll just take it even keeled before like putting myself out there. So it was a really cool exercise.
Interesting. Cool. All right. And yeah, would love to hear. So you do a lot of like men's work. It seems like you go to like a lot of men. Like you love like I see you post a lot about like men masculinity, and especially within minority groups, right? Like like with the Hispanic and people that come from African descent as well. Would you shed some light into like why you're so passionate about that, and like why that's like something that you want to advocate across the board?
Yeah, no, great question. So when I think about a couple things, my father passed away when I was 3 years old. So I was raised by my mother. I have two older brothers. So they were super impactful in terms of the way I was raised. But I always felt there was something in terms of what it means to be a man in this day and age. And obviously we get bombarded with a lot of things on the internet, social media, movies, and different things along those lines. I got recently married last year, so I'm super pumped about that.
Yeah, and still didn't get the wedding invite, but I'm still checking my mail.
Keep checking your mail. And what really stood out for me is that, knock on wood, God willing, I would love to be, a father in the future. what it really means to be a husband. So for me, going through my journey of self-compassion and really understanding how I can be a better man, that's why I started looking at things around men's group, masculinity, mental health, because unfortunately, a lot of times there's a stigma in the Black community that men don't like to go to therapy because it's seen as weakness. And one of the things that we're very similar with when it comes to self-development, I went through a training called Momentum Education. And one of the facilitators, her name is Sylvia, mentioned something so powerful to me. She mentioned the day I became vulnerable was the day I became powerful.
Wow.
Like that really hit home. Like vulnerability is power, it's not weakness. So when I look through a lot of different things around mental health, masculinity, manhood, that all comes together on what it means to be a man in this day and age, not only for my family, but for my outer community as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's very powerful. I think the best leaders like Jeff Weiner, like he's extremely vulnerable a lot of times, right? Like he goes up, in front of like 14,000 employees and admits like a lot of the things that he's not good at, right? But he kind of pokes fun at himself about like certain things. And yeah, no, that's an interesting topic. Yeah, so it sounds like not having a father was like a pretty big impact on you. Like, do you think that's why you're so involved with like mentoring and giving back to the community? Like, do you see like a correlation there?
Yeah, no, that's a real good point. I would think about when I think about my father, he did a really awesome job of picking the right woman to be his wife, and who eventually became my mother. So she instilled a lot of community-based work from my childhood into high school, college, and afterwards. And I think I really wouldn't be here if I didn't have the right mentors in my life, be it my mother, my older brothers, having awesome professors, having great teachers. So always had that, inner drive to give back, because that's the way I've been blessed in my life. So there's an opportunity for me to do the same thing. So one of the things that we have a relationship is around I mentor.
Yeah.
So essentially, they align a college educated professional with a high school student. So I've been mentoring my students since freshman year. And now he's a senior and he's going to be graduating. So we communicate via email every week. I've met him once a month over the past 4 years, and to see his evolution as like a shy freshman, now he's on the basketball team, and now he's ready to go to college. It's just been super impactful, not only for my inner being, but just to see him and to understand the impact that he shared with me that I've done for him as being a mentor and being present and offering advice. That just goes a long way. I'm also mentoring a college student who I went to St. John's University. I graduated with a finance degree. And so I've been mentoring him for the past 3 or 4 months. And I'm helping him to open his eyes, because everyone told him to go to finance. His brother's in finance. That's why he thinks to make money. But he has a passion for sports, and he has a passion for cars. So I was like, why don't you look into something that you're really passionate about, because you have time on your hands. So now he's actually looking into sports marketing as either a transition or to look for an actual opportunity. So just having the opportunity where people are able to give me advice and get me to the place I am, and hopefully to give back and share that with others.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so, see, like I feel like that's rare to have, because I think we often like think what we want to do, right? Whether it's like societal expectations or just based on like what you think just from media or whatever, right? But it's rare to actually have someone be like, actually, like maybe you should take a look into something else. And clearly, like that's like a pretty big career transition. Like how did you guys even meet? Like, did he reach out to you? Like, how did that all work
Great
out?
question. So I think, I'm all about the universe opening up things for me. So I actually got an email from St. John's saying, hey, would you like to be part of a mentorship program? And when I reflect on my time at St. John's, I started as a physician assistant major. And I wanted to get into the healthcare space, and then chemistry was just biology. I was like, I was okay. So for me, I was in a transition. I was like, the only reason I was looking into the healthcare space is because everyone told me, get into the healthcare space, get into the healthcare space. It was not something I was really passionate about. I was very passionate about business, about entrepreneurship. So I had a couple mentors and teachers tell me about, you can transition your degree into finance and business management. And that's how I made that transition. So when I was thinking about, hey, I want to make an impact with someone who's college age, as well as someone that was high school, which I'm currently doing through iMentor, So with the program through St. John, he was in college. So offering my advice to someone in that stage to really give back, it just kind of opened up, and the universe provided a platform and an outlet to support this individual. And we've been going strong over the past couple of months.
Wow, that's amazing. So it seemed like, but then you said like your mother instilled like a sense of community even at a young age. Like what things did she do? Because it's interesting, because I think some people have this like aha moment and then they like course correct like maybe much later on. But it seemed like even at a much earlier age, you were, you had like glimpses of like, giving back and community work and stuff like that.
Great question. So my mother originally came from Haiti. She immigrated here in the 60s. So Haitian descent, sapase, nabule, for your Haitian audience out there. So I think when I think about my childhood and adolescence, community and family was super important. That really stood out from that perspective. I had my older brothers that would help me with my studies. We had a lot of community-based projects because I've been going through Catholic schoolboy from second grade to middle school, high school, college, as well as my post-grad MBA. So I've been going to Catholic university. So my Catholic faith is definitely very important to me. So service, giving back, community. My mother really instilled that to me when I was young, and then it's kind of grown over the numerous years after that.
Huh. That's awesome. And I know like, you like when you went to Haiti for that, like, I don't know, like with LinkedIn, was that the first time you were in Haiti?
Yeah, that was so magical. It was the first time I went to Haiti last year for the Haiti Tech Summit, and LinkedIn was one of the sponsors. So I was actually able to speak to thousands of people who was in attendance, as well as online, about the power of LinkedIn. Made some really good connections locally here from people who were at that event. But being on the island that my mother grew up, my father grew up, there was an energy, and I just felt like my ancestors were there. It was just powerful. It just felt like being at home. There's definitely a lot of challenges that's going on in Haiti, but there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of people who are empowered, that want to give back, that want to transform the country. It's the first Black republic in the world. So knowing that, where my ancestors came from, being back there to give back, and understanding there's a big opportunity in front of me, by continuing to speak about the power of LinkedIn, and to kind of be a leader in my community, like it was just a magical experience.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, it's cool to like see everything come full circle, right? It's like, you have all these like mentoring opportunities, like, doing all the self-development work, and then for you to be like that, like Tony Robbins type of character in your, your ancestors, like it's cool, man.
Yeah, no, my wife always jokes about, because my two favorite people that really got me into personal development is Tony Robbins and Les Brown. So she calls me Les Tony.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really inspiring. Huh. So I know like we know each other through Landmark, and we've done like a ton of Landmark. they keep calling us like Landmark, you guys got to tone it down a little bit, maybe like 50%. Like, but but at the end of, like, we joke, but at the end of the day, like, we both have gotten a lot out of it. Like what was like your favorite Landmark program out of all the ones that you've done? And I guess like what are some takeaways that you still remember from those programs?
I would say some of the things that stood out from, I don't think I just have a favorite course, but I think multiple things stood out for me. One is about vulnerability, being on the court, being seen, being present, not feeling that, don't allow the outside in terms of judgment to dictate the way I want to live my life. Being a community leader was something that really stood out from the self-expression leadership program, which we attended together. The communication course, just really being authentic, being powerful. Overall, the program really stood out for me because I had a lot of great people that worked at LinkedIn, funny enough, who's been through the program. I read a lot of the online reviews, and I was really hesitant. But until I actually attended one of the orientation events, spoke to people I trust and admire at LinkedIn, and talked about the program, and then met some really great people in the organization, is what really stood out for me to take that leap and open the floodgates of who I am, my authenticity, how to be genuine, how to really communicate and be a leader. So I would say a lot of those things stood out from taking not only the landmark course, but going through personal development, either Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Momentum, or just reading a lot of different books to help you become a better human being.
Yeah.
And that's what really stands out the most.
Huh. So I'm curious as to, so you mentioned like Les Brown is one of your like favorite motivational speakers. Is that a goal for you as well? Like, do you want to be like eventually like do speaking engagements all day? Like,
good question. I mean, I think I could see myself doing that. I think that's a possibility for myself. Not only to inspire others, but I want to make sure people feel empowered and not always have to rely on just a motivational speaker to help them with their lives, but hopefully empower people with tactics, books, seminars, direction to kind of help transform their lives. So I can definitely see myself doing workshops, speaking in front of the youth, speaking in front of people as young professionals. One of the things that I reflect on my career is that I've been relatively successful in a lot of corporate spaces, and I always want to share what I've learned and make sure I give that back to other people. So I mentor a couple of people at LinkedIn who are on the sales side. So that's important for me, that all the things that I get from other folks, I want to make sure I can share that with other people so they can help climb that ladder. And that's where I get fulfillment.
Interesting. So, and then it seems, so you mentioned youth work a few different times. Like, do you think that later on you'll still specialize with more like you know, younger professionals, or like I guess like I'm noticing like a lot of common themes. Like you like college, like helping college students, like helping like high schoolers. Like, do you tend to gravitate towards like helping the young, like maybe as opposed to like the elderly or something like that?
I don't know about elderly, maybe more veterans. It's probably a better way to say that.
Veterans, seasoned pros.
Seasoned pros.
Seasoned vets, yeah.
I probably have a natural gravity to help people with the youth, because I feel that's an opportunity where having a strong mentor can help really set the direction of their career and their life, because I've had wonderful people have done that for me, and I've been able to create the right path for myself. I think that's a good sweet spot I play in, from high school, college, young professional, but even people who are in my age range as well. Like during my performance review, I got feedback that I'm like an anchor on the team. Nice. Anytime someone has something to go through, they can come to me. Wow, awesome. So because I like to be open, I like to be present. I don't want to judge. So I really want to understand what are they going through, how they can see it from a different light, and what kind of new possibilities they can create for themselves.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, because in my mind, like, you're Edwin Aristor to me, but you're also Edwin Aristor to everyone else, right? So I can only imagine. Like, that's awesome. I mean, were you always like that? Like, were you like that at Aerotech as well, or?
When I think about it, even if I just think when I was younger, I was actually really shy.
Okay.
I was really, really shy. Middle school into high school, probably by like junior year, senior year, I started to open up. And I think I just had a lot of people just give me some feedback, like, hey, you're really cool. Like, open up. Like, you don't have to be so quiet, like express yourself. Because I was just very genuine, but I was like really shy and quiet. So when I look at, and to correct you, it was the tech systems, which is IT staffing. Aerotech was the sister company.
Oh, right.
Funny enough, like sometimes I do things not consciously, in the sense that I actively pursued doing this. So at Tech Systems, my second year on the job, I got MVP of the office. And it's because, number one, I produced from a results perspective, but I was known to help new people and help people overall.
That's awesome.
So like I was surprised when I got that MVP award. Like, I was like, whoa, like out the blue, I was like, oh shoot, like it's like he was at the Oscars or something, where you didn't believe the Grammys, you didn't believe that you were gonna win. So like I didn't realize consciously I was just actively helping people out, but I was still producing. So it's a combination of two things. It's doing your job well, meaning getting the results, whatever, either sales, marketing, product, whatever the case you're being measured, doing that really well, and then helping the people around you. And I think I mirrored that really well. Just that's my natural personality, and that's where I get the most fulfillment, doing a really great job and helping the people around me.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you mentioned something that I definitely don't want to like skirt over. So you mentioned like there was like a shift and then you eventually like opened up? Was it gradual, or was there like a year that you remember that you just like broke out of your shell, like transformed like a butterfly, like metamorphosis?
um, the swan, the ugly duckling to the swan. Is that what you're trying to say?
Something like that.
I would say it's probably more gradual.
Uh,
You know, from high school into college, just opening up, being more exposed to different cultures, different people, was really impactful during that time in college. When I look at, you know, when I got married, I was looking at my groomsmen, and then I looked at my wife's bridesmaid, and it was such a diverse group of people, color, background, creed, religion. So that really opened up for me when I got exposed to different people outside of growing up in, you know, Queens, going to school in Long Island, going back to school in Queens for college, and then starting working in the city and being exposed to different food, cuisine, people, background, sexual orientation. So I think it was a gradual process, as long as, because I have that growth mindset and I'm relatively open, being exposed to so many different things allowed me to progress as a human being.
Huh. Yeah. Do you think like people that grow up like in Queens and like this area, like, do you think we have like a leg up just because we're exposed to so much more like diversity and just like, because I definitely notice like it seems like people grow up and mature like on a much younger age that, you know, have grown up in the city, right, versus the suburbs.
Yeah, I'll probably say it was a combination of both. Like, you know, one, I have my, you know, memory of my mom all the time is that she constantly took me to the city when we were growing up, on the weekends, when I was on vacation. So constantly I was always known going to the city. So at a certain point in my mind, it's like, I want to work in New York City.
Okay.
So like that opened up for me as I grew up. And then, you know, to your point around being in, you know, even though I grew up in Queens, the suburb areas of Queens, having access to the city, having exposure to New York City and different cultures, different backgrounds, different religions. I won't say it just gives you a leg up, but I think it just creates a bigger pathway to understand the human condition by being exposed to people of all walks of life.
Yeah, that's pretty deep. Huh. Yeah, so I'm curious to, like, I know that, you know, we went to the Jack Canfield's event, right? The Day of Greatness. Actually, yeah, let's like what are some things you learned from that? Because like I remember like it was a pretty cool event, but you know, we've done like so many of these.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to like what were some of your takeaways from that event in particular?
Yeah. When I think about just going to some of these events, I already know I have it in me. But I think the reason I love enjoying these personal development seminars, workshops, it's like it's a muscle. You got to continue building that muscle. If you don't continue going to the gym, that muscle is going to atrophy and you're going to lose your strength. So I think having the opportunity to go to some of these seminars really strengthens what I already have, helps open maybe new pathways of the things I don't think about. So for instance, Jack Canfield, I think one of the biggest takeaway was just I'm 100% responsible for what happens in my life. So taking a responsibility, either, you know, my health or something around sales related or something inside my family, it's more about how I'm going to respond to that situation. Life is going to happen. So it's more about my response. Am I going to go into my cave and have a breakdown, or am I going to respond to that situation and think of different solutions, or be proactive, or be more empathetic, or have more sympathy? So I think just being responsible for what's happening in my life, that really stood out for me. And then I'm actually going to go to his training in June with one of our good friends, Nicholas. So I think it's just really helpful just to constantly have something to reinforce that muscle around personal development and self-actualization.
Yeah. On that note, I know we're going to the Summit of Greatness soon. What are you know, like what are your expectations for that? What's something that you want to get out of that conference? I'm curious.
I think we got next level and
Man.
Summit.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going
on. I would say for those two upcoming events, it's continue being in the arena, being on the court, playing our bigger game, not just reacting to what's happening in the world, but being proactive. What I want to do with my career, what I want to do for my community, what I want to do for my family. You know, making sure that I'm uncovering my blind spots. What are some of the things that's potentially holding me back? Put it out on the forefront, tackle it to make sure it's no longer there, so I can continue with my career and my life. And I think for me, just meeting amazing people.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in that space, you're meeting a lot of like-minded people, people with growth mindsets. So I think having that opportunity to collaborate, to network, to really build strong relationships. I think that's, you know, some of the most impactful things that come out of those events. Just the people, and they're super genuine, they're super
Yeah.
nice, they're friendly, and they always have different ideas that they can share with you. And at the end of the day, it's just going to help my own game.
Yeah. I do think like just reflecting from the summit of greatness, like I think people that, you know, I met through Landmark, like people like you and Nick, like at all these events, like I definitely feel like I can be like, it's when I'm my best self, right? When I'm surrounding myself with people like you that are just super open-minded, you know, don't make excuses, like don't be victim and don't blame like circumstances. I feel like that's when I feel the most like myself. And I'm super excited for you to meet like our group, because we already like, we still keep in touch.
Yeah.
And yo, I can't wait for you to meet Gina. She's a freaking fireball of energy, dude. She's hilarious. Like she'll just go up to everyone. Like she came to visit here the other day, and she bought like a bag of like macadamia nuts from Hawaii, and she just started handing it out to random people.
Yeah,
like,
that's
like,
powerful,
right? Like, like the Uber drivers, like Equinox, like the front desk people, like cab driver, like the waiters. Like she's like taking pictures with everyone. She's like taking selfies, and she's like, oh, like let's like connect on. And it's like, dude, like who wouldn't want to be around her?
She's a powerful person.
Yeah,
that's amazing. Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah, super pumped for that. Yeah, so would love to dig into a little bit deeper about like what has your experience been like as like a black male in our society, right? Because I think like you're a minority in tech, right? Being like a, you know, because I know that's something that you're passionate about, like because you're, you know, you're involved with like Big, I believe, which is a Black inclusion group. And I feel like you know, people, I feel like this is one of the industries where it's hard for Black people to tap into, right? So what's your experience like in corporate America so far?
Got it. Such a loaded question.
Yeah.
You know,
just throw it out there.
Yeah, no. I hear where you're coming from. I think number one is to always just speak about my own personal experience. Like I can't speak for every Black person in tech or every Black person in America. Same thing. You can't speak for every Asian person in tech and every Asian person in New York City.
Sure.
But I definitely hear where you're coming from. I understand where you're trying to lead to. But I can just talk more about my experience. And I think for me, just the rigor of education that my mom instilled in me from, you know, high school, college, my MBA, my family being super involved in education, and especially within the Haitian community. That's something that's, you know, thrived upon, of having a strong educational background. So I think coming from there allowed me to thrive in quote unquote white spaces, places where, you know, we're not usually the majority, we're usually the underrepresented group. So I think, you know, from my own personal experience is that I've had the opportunity to treat human beings as another human being. So so I feel that's what opens a lot for me. Like I don't just see another Asian person, white person, so on and so forth. I just see another human being in front of me. So I think that opens the door on how I interact in different places. So being in the tech space at LinkedIn, I mean, we have such a phenomenal big community. Just people are super authentic, super supportive. They want to see people thrive and be successful. Building relationships not only with the people in that big community, but understanding some allies. So there's been wonderful allies within this organization that helps you thrive. Being part of specific groups. So I'm part of the LEAD program, which is LinkedIn's engagement and development programs for high potential Black and Latino employees at LinkedIn. So having some understandings around imposter syndrome, burnout, how to manage your manager, how to navigate your career. So I think for me is that I've been vulnerable enough to build relationships with people outside of my quote unquote ethnic background and just have relationships with human beings that work here. And then just understanding people's stories, having really great conversations on where they've been, where they're going to. I'm really big into future-based language, so understanding like what are the possibilities that they want to create in their lives and help them lead them to that spot, or provide advice or books or seminars to think about that. So I think for me, yes, it's a real story. There's a strong narrative about what it means to be Black in the tech space. And I can only talk about my personal experience rather than talking about, you know, the Black experience, because it's not a monolith. Like there are people from different backgrounds that maybe don't even see the way I see things, or vice versa. So I think it's always good to just talk about people's experience themselves.
No, that's very true. Our executive sponsor, now that I'm, you know, leading a lot of like the LinkedIn Asian Alliance initiatives here in New York City, she says like sometimes we have a mindset that when we seek a lot of these like experiences, it confirms our like opinions, which just adds to it, right? So it's almost like taking the victim mentality. Not to say like that it doesn't exist, right? But when over leveraged, it can actually be like disempowering, right? So this is a good. So I guess like what I'm trying to say is like my takeaway is that like don't let it like affect you. Like even like some people like they look at the stats and they'll be like, it's impossible. How am I going to make it? There's only 1%, right? But it seems like you're like, just be a good human being and then take advantage of all the opportunities like lead and stuff like that. You know, not everyone has that like optimism, but obviously like that's gotten you pretty far. So it's like just seeing the opportunity instead of like being disempowered by like, you know, maybe like statistics. And things like
absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things is just look at the commonalities with the employees. As you build relationships with the employees and your manager, and you just start having open, authentic conversations, you're just going to find so many things that you have in common versus a lot of the differences. It could be people from, my manager's originally from Spain, but we have a lot of same likes about around food and activities, but she was across from Europe growing up. I grew up in New York, but we have a lot of commonalities, even though we're two different type of backgrounds. So I think it's important that we have these conversations, to be open, to be vulnerable, to understand what are some unique similarities that we have. And if there's differences, that just makes us unique, because we're all human beings. We don't always think the same or have the same type of mindset, but it's great to have conversations to really find what's common.
Yeah, man, that's why you're Edwin Aristor, man. Like that's like magic bullet, dude.
My
like
gosh.
he's killing it. He's killing it.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I have a few like probably like 3 more questions for you. Oh, I always wanted to ask someone this. You know how Lewis Howes is always at the end? It's like, if everything is erased, like all of your podcasts, all of your books, like all of your like recordings was erased. I think it's like, what is the message what are 3 things like that's like your truths that you want the world to know?
So I'm going to challenge you and think of something on your own rather than using someone from Lewis.
Damn, bro. Come on, man.
That's some real-time coaching.
Damn.
So I want you to think of something that's Davidson.
Well, all right. I guess like my version of that would be like, what's some message that you want to distill to, because it seems like you're a mentor to many mentors and a mentor to a lot of people that are like want to make it in the corporate world, but also have like a well-balanced life, right? I think there's certain folks that crushing it in their career, but maybe, you know, their family life or their personal life isn't a priority, right? So what's some advice you want to give to someone who wants to have it all? Because I guess seemingly from the outside, it seems like you have it all, right? Beautiful wife, amazing wedding, like picturesque, you know what I mean? Like you have the friends, you're giving back, like you're high potential, you're on the management track, right? What advice would you want to give to someone who does want to have like a well-balanced life of meaning?
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think if I could distill it into a couple maybe topics. I would say number 1, never stop learning. Learning about yourself, learning about your craft. So it could be, and I'm not going to be beholden to, you have to do landmark or so on and so forth, but I think never stop learning is, what type of books are you reading? Are you seeking therapy? Are you seeking psychology? Are you into self-development? Are there seminars? Do you have mentors? So I think never stop learning encompasses a lot of different things. It could be videos, modules, people, practices. So I think one of those things is something that you should be really mindful of, especially within the corporate space. Number 2 is service. If you're serving, your customers, you're serving your coworkers, you're serving the people that you interact on a day-to-day perspective from a corporate perspective, I think that's where you start seeing results. That's where you see the doors start opening up, because you're not being self-centered, you're giving back and helping others and helping the organization. So that's something I've noticed that's led to my success. Gratitude.
I need to take a page on that.
Gratitude is something, and we've talked about this before. I'm trying to get a gratitude journal practice, but I think I'm really grateful for the opportunities I've had in front of me and making sure I acknowledge people for that. So a simple thank you note. I love writing handwritten cards. I know that's something that's your main MO, but I really, and it goes a long way. Thank you cards, sending happy birthday calls and text messages to managers, to clients, to people that's important to your life, just showing the gratitude and acknowledging them for some of the important things they've done to you in your life. I would say being passionate about the work that you do. So I've been in the sales game for the past 10 years, where I feel the fulfillment I get from doing sales is I'm able to help someone. I'm able to solve a problem. I like to be a problem solver. I like to give up some solutions. So that passion is really important to me. And then lastly, when I tie it all into is what's your why? Even though it sometimes might be cliche from Simon Sinek, but I noticed, say for instance, like I did really, really well last year is because I had a why. It was like, I'm getting married. I want to have a bomb ass wedding. I really want to do well. I want to have an amazing honeymoon. So I had a why. And then for my why, I understood like having the passion, being of service, having gratitude, helping others around me, never stop learning. I think that all encompassed for me to have an awesome year. And that's what I try to do on a day-to-day basis. And I try to be really present. Try to be really,
that
really
you
present.
You are. Actually, on that note, I also noticed like it seems like you have a lot of fun at work. Like, I guess like this is a great question though, because honestly, I think a lot of people struggle with like just having fun at work, especially in a quota carrying role. So what's some advice that you would give to people that, you know, maybe they are crushing it in the role, but they're like losing that sense of like fun, like it used to be fun, but it's no longer fun?
Yeah. I think for me personally, if I stop having fun is because I'm being selfish and only focusing on myself. And if I see a team member doing well and crushing it and hitting quota and doing different things along those lines, I want to make sure that I'm saying congratulations, that's awesome, great job, I'm super happy for you. And then I'm humble enough to say, hey, listen, I'm struggling here. I know that you crushed your number already. Hey, can we sit down and actually have a conversation, understand what are some of the things that you've done really well, that's working really well for you? So I think that's something I've learned, you know, having tutors in high school and college, being in the professional space. I'm open and vulnerable enough. And I know it's a lot of challenge for just people in general. They always say men and so on and so forth. But just a lot of people have some challenges about asking for help and being vulnerable. Obviously, you want to be tactical who you can ask for help and to share what you're going through, either personal or professional. But I think if I'm focusing too much on myself, I'm not having fun. If I'm focusing on the outward, seeing people are doing successful, asking for help, and then bring it back to what I can do better at my job. And then when I start hitting a couple of deals, getting a couple of base hits, and then when I slam that home run, because I was so supportive of everyone else, when I hit my home run, everyone's going to come back to me and say, hey, man, you were super supportive when I was down. I know you came out, you were struggling here. Now you're doing really well. We're super behind you. We want to congratulate you. So I think for me, that's something that's been really helpful for me is understanding if I'm too focused on myself, if I start focusing on others, serving, being grateful, it's going to come back.
That's awesome. That's really good advice. Yeah. I mean, just speaking from experience, like there's definitely been times where like I'm like in my head, I'm too in my stuff that like it's like sometimes like I zone out too much where like it's like I don't even, the day's over and I'm like, man, I haven't even said hi to like a person yet, you know? So it's good to find strike that balance where like you're still present and you're still like being that source. Because at the end of the day, like it's all about relationships, right? So
absolutely.
All right, Edwin. Well, I want to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for like just being like that person for me. You know, who you are to me is who I try to be for other people. And yeah, man, like you mean a lot to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Thank you so much. And David said,
Yeah.
I just want to acknowledge you. I mean, you're powerful. You inspire me all the time, the way you have your podcasts, your blogs, and everything that you do. And you really stand out for not only as a man, as a brother, just as an amazing human being. And I really appreciate you just standing out and doing these type of interviews. And I feel like you're getting really emotional.
I know,
I'm
dude.
getting emotional with you.
I can't believe this is the first time I think I cried during a freaking interview.
Yeah, no, it's that you inspired me to be on the court, to put myself out there, You're gonna hold me accountable for creating that personal website.
Oh yeah.
But
You guys heard it.
Yes, you heard it. But you're just powerful and amazing, and you inspire me every day. So thank you so much for having me on your podcast / YouTube video / interview.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Cheers.
brother. Appreciate
it. Oh my God. I can't believe I cried.